Let the record show that Adrian walked in and said, should we record this to exploit it for money? Tell them what you told me when you walked in, because I wasn't ready.
Wait, it's not focusing. Oh, there it goes. What is the time for?
Time for see you later.
Wow. This is it.
I feel like I'm not leaving, but I am.
I can't believe you.
It hits me every 5 minutes.
I keep looking at like my mom wrote this quote for me freshman year like 10 minutes before she left, and I keep seeing it. Now I'm taking it down because I don't even use this calendar anymore, but I keep it up because she wrote that for me. And like I'm having to take it down and take it home. Like there's nothing left in my room. It's all in boxes now.
How dare you come move in and you guys finally be roommates, but you leave a semester later?
Listen, she has to grow. I need to stop spending money by going to college.
This is it.
It's so expensive.
It is.
Retweet.
I'm sad. I didn't know you were leaving like early.
This is wild. I can't believe this.
You're the only other person in the house that likes to hug. What am I supposed to do?
Oh man, this is fun.
I don't remember how I met you. I just know that you were always there.
It just happened, man.
I apologize. There's no vlog today. Or not like a follow me along on my day vlog. Today I woke up at like noon and I was just relaxing until my family came. Then around 3 my family came and it became crazy. We went around campus and took pictures. The sun was setting. We went out to dinner. Then we came back and we were packing and cleaning like maniacs. So now pretty much everything in my life is in a box. And I didn't really bring out my camera during any of it because it was just time with family and it was kind of stressful and I was really cranky because it's the end of an era. This is gonna be the saddest thing you'll ever see, but this is now my room. Empty door, closets all empty. No more mirror, just boxes. Nothing up top except my graduation stuff. Empty drawers. All this I need to pack up tonight. Just my lone cactus on the windowsill. Nothing on the walls. Empty bookshelf. I'm sad about it. And it's weird because my parents got a hotel a couple miles down the street and they're there right now. Passingly I joked like, oh hey, I should sleep with you in this hotel tonight. And my mom said, well, don't you want to sleep for one last time in your own bed? And I mean, yeah. But I was so upset because I woke up this morning. As I was in the restroom after I woke up, I was just thinking and I was still half groggy, and then I realized as I was sitting there, I was like, Julia isn't here. And then I was like, okay, well it's just Veronica and then I didn't really see Veronica all day. Today I think I want to talk about, I guess, just a reflection on my college because we're at the end. There's no better time to do it. Let's freaking talk, dudes. This is not scripted. Here's a ramble about me in college. If you don't care, I'm so sorry. I'll see you tomorrow. I have nothing else to talk about, and I think this is a really valuable time. This is my last 12 hours in this apartment, I guess on a college campus in general. So let's do a little bit of ranting. When I was in high school, I was a very fearful person. I didn't get my license until I was 18. I was so reliant on my parents for everything. I think I've forgotten now how I used to be, but I found an old journal entry that was talking about whenever I came to college, I didn't know how to use a debit card. And it's just things like that that I do every day now that back when I was a senior in high school, I was so worried about and I was so preoccupied with, and I didn't think I would ever be able to succeed at college. So I remember I told myself this for a long time. It's in 2015 when I was graduating high school, I would tell myself, this is going to be the worst year of your life because you're not going to be able to do college. It sounds so cliche right now telling you after I've gone through it. I could probably find some journal entries from 2015 that talk about like, I can't survive on my own. I don't know how to do anything without my parents. I'm not independent enough to have to stand up for myself and to go do things and take responsibility for my actions. None of that was instilled in me because I'd relied on my parents so much. So I was convinced I was going to have a horrible experience in college. And that was brought on by the fact that in high school, I really didn't have a diagnosis for my anxiety. My anxiety was something that I attributed to, I was afraid of change, which to some degree is true, as when my life is in upheaval, I start to get really panicky about things. So I knew that with a huge life change, like going to college, I was at such risk for having anxiety and having a relapse, because I knew like the switch from intermediate school to middle school, or elementary school for most of the United States, from the switch from elementary school to middle school like killed my anxiety. That's when it developed. That's when I remember it. I didn't even have a name for it back then, but again, the switch from middle school to high school re-triggered it. So I was like, okay, high school to college, it's gonna be the worst. All of that built up to say I was fine. I had moments of anxiety my freshman year, and there were definitely times where I thought, oh my gosh, how am I gonna do this? For the most part, I have such good memories from freshman year. I can only tell you of one time that I really was having anxiety, and I think it was like the first week of school before we even had classes. My freshman year, I lived in the all-girls dorm called Killingsworth Hall. I had the option to live in the honors dorm, which was next door, and it was like you had your own bedroom and you just shared a bathroom with the person next to you, but literally that apartment was so tiny, I did not want to live there. I opted to live with a random roommate in this girls' dorm. I lived on the first floor, which was awesome, room 119. Whoever's in there now, enjoy it. So yeah, I lived on the first floor. I had a great window view. We were in a corner room, so we had a lot more space than the average rooms. I had a random roommate from New Zealand. It was meant to be. I don't know why she came to Texas in the middle of nowhere from New Zealand, but that was my first roommate. We lived together for like a month and a half until she moved out. I don't think she goes to this school anymore. I was never super close with her, and she would always tell me like, oh, we're gonna go out to the bars and I'm gonna take you to party one night, because she knew I was an English major who just wanted to stay in her room and not do anything. And she would always joke like, oh, we're gonna go out one time and you're gonna have so much fun. Never happened. And I'm not upset about that. I did not want to go, and living with her was interesting. I don't want to throw her under a bus, and I don't want her to see this. But I don't know, when you come from an international place, you don't own a lot of stuff because you don't take a ton with you, so she was always borrowing my things. And again, I'm not going to get into specifics, but we just weren't the best of friends. And I think especially American TV and movies and literature makes you think like your college roommates are going to be your best friends and it's going to be so amazing. And even I perpetuate that because my roommates here are so amazing and they're the best. But freshman year, my first roommate wasn't my biffle, wasn't the person I wanted to be my bridesmaid. Then she moved out and I lived by myself for the rest of the semester, which was amazing. I think that's kind of when I grew into myself, because I was able to have a lot more independence, and I don't know, having your own space and getting to live by yourself is just very character building. Even though I know the dorm experience is just as important for like learning how to coexist with someone. Kaylin was my first friend whenever I was at school. I knew these other two girls that had come from my high school, but I just knew them passingly, but still we hung out once freshman year, never hung out again. The day before classes, we all met up, we were walking around, I was having a good time, and that was the first day I think I convinced myself like, you can do this, like you're outside with people talking. We were walking around looking for all our buildings, and I remember it was a Sunday the night before classes and all the buildings were locked, and I was panicking. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't go inside, because every year of high school, this is the anxiety in me, every year of high school, I would go to the high school before the year began, and they had a day where they let you go inside and like walk your classes. And I did that, or if I couldn't do that, I would find a map online of the school, or an old one that I had from previous year, and I would find my room numbers and write maps for myself because I was so paranoid of being able to find classrooms. So my first day of freshman year, I was petrified that I couldn't find my classrooms. And I remember I did have this one class in this crazy fine arts building that's literally built like a maze, and there's like 3 wings, and I remember I had a class in one wing and I could not find it. I know now I was in the totally wrong building, so it's so fun to think about, but we basically have like one building that's an art building and then one building that's the theater. I remember I was going in the theater building looking for this art classroom, and I kept walking into the theater and there were like 6 doors, so I kept being like, oh, that's not it. Then I'd walk around and open another door and it was still the theater, and I didn't understand that like even though you go up a staircase and open a door, it still leads to that one theater. And I remember my actual professor of that class walked by me on the way to the classroom, and when I finally found the classroom, I walked in and it was him who had just walked by me like walking into the theater, and I was like, well, I'm a freshman. So that was fun. Yeah, freshman year, I feel like I'm taking so long to talk about everything, but I've talked about this before. Through Kaylin, I met all my other friends of Julia, Veronica, Kirian, Aisha, people who have transferred since then, and people who I don't talk to anymore. I really miss freshman year. Freshman year is like no stakes, You just make friendships. Like, of course the classes are difficult, but I don't remember a super difficult course load freshman year. I just remember the togetherness of everything, because you would come home to that freshman dorm and like everyone was there because no one had jobs at that point. Every time that we had free time, we would just spend it together. The homework assignments were all just like studying and reading. You didn't have to do a bunch of projects and huge essays and research stuff. So it was just so different than now. Like, I look back on freshman year with so much nostalgia just because it was like the easiest time. Halfway through my freshman year, I moved in with Gabby, who has been in videos before. You can go back to 2016 and she's in a couple videos. I did a roommate tag with her and we answered stuff about each other. I still love her to death. We just don't really talk that much. She's coming to my graduation tomorrow, actually. She drove like 3 hours here with her mom, so that's just really super sweet of her to do. I lived with her for half a year. That was so much fun because we're both like plus-sized girls, so we would share each other's clothes and we would bond, and oh, it was so much fun. I love her to death. Sophomore year, I moved in with Kaylin, who was my #1 best friend always at school, and that has got to be, oh, that's the best thing about college, is that year of living with like my favorite person. Even though the place we lived was dumb and stupid because we moved into the new dorm that had just been completed building that year. It was whack sometimes, it was cool other times, but I just loved living with her. She is such a fun person, and no matter what, we would always just make each other laugh. And our friend group all lived on the 5th floor again with us, and again, classes were pretty simple. I was starting to get to my upper level classes toward the end, but I met more friends in my department because I started taking a lot more English classes, so I became friends with people like Lexi and Christy and Dom. Some people of those you've seen here, some you haven't. And I was still doing really well, and I was so proud of myself that for so long I had built college up to be this thing that I should be terrified of. But then I was able to go to professors' offices and not be afraid to walk in, or go talk to a registrar, or to the bookstore, or call someone. Like, I think the biggest thing is I was really bad at communication. I was the type of person where like even up until high school, I would ask for my mom to order things for me from restaurants because I just did not want to talk to people. And I realized that's a huge thing that changed, because like tonight we walked into a restaurant and usually I'll like cower behind someone and just like go sit down whenever they lead us there. But like tonight I walked in first and I was like, hi, table for 4. And like that wasn't me 4 years ago. My confidence has grown so much through college, and I just can't believe the different person I've become after college. I don't know if it's evident in my video. I mean, obviously I've changed since 2015, but I just don't know if like my personality or like my confidence level is evident. I'm so much more capable now. I still am terrified of a lot of things. Like the fact that I don't have a job going into the new year is kind of upsetting. I don't know if where I want to work is gonna have a position for me, so like that limbo can kind of make my heart race sometimes. But like today I was straightening my hair and I had my mirror like set up in front of me because I had to take it off the wall, and I just had like a full body length mirror in front of me, like 6 inches away from my face, and I was just looking at myself like, that's you. You're here and you did this. I don't know, I'm so off track. Junior year is kind of where shit hit the fan. I kind of want to do a video on this one day and just do a compilation of all the clips that I have, because I documented a lot of this time because I knew it was something I would be able to get out of and then look back on as future inspiration to myself to be able to pull out of another relapse again. But I relapsed really bad with my anxiety junior year. There were a lot of factors going into it, and I've never really opened up about that, but I feel like I can talk about it now, even though the people that it's involved with still watch my videos. I don't care, I'm graduating. I'll do an expose all. So toward the end of my sophomore year, back when I lived with Kaylin and I had Veronica and Julia all on the same floor with me, there became a period where I sort of started isolating myself from them. So everything I say about being estranged from them is all driven by me, and I don't want it to seem like they were being bad friends. But whenever they would go watch movies in the lounge, I'd prefer to stay in my room. Whenever they would all go study together, I would want to stay in my room. Same with events. Instead of going to events, I would want to stay in my room. To some degree, I've always done this, and I still do this. The bonfire that they do every year for homecoming, I've never been to, just because the crowds and the hubbubaloo of it, I just don't click with. Toward the end of sophomore year, I began to notice I was opting out of more and more things that I didn't really want to do with them. And then at one point, like, they just stopped inviting me, which is to be expected. But then I think in my head I made it a bigger deal than it was, because every small thing I began to interpret as they're talking about me behind my back, they don't like me, they purposefully don't want me with them. And I realized now there were a lot of signs that I was going on the downhill for whatever reason. I don't know, maybe just time or stress buildup. But like at one point in sophomore year toward the end, I was really really dirty. Like I had 3 or 4 trash bags. It was definitely 4. I had like 4 or 5 trash bags in my room just like stacked on a wall because I hadn't taken them out. And I remember one day I was just in my room relaxing and Kaylin was in the lounge with everyone, so I was just by myself. And then one day they all barged in and they were like, all right, Whitney, we're gonna go check out your trash. We're all gonna do it together. Which was a thoughtful thing for them to do, but all that reverberated in my head was they were talking about how dirty and gross I am and they wanted to do it with me so that it would force me to take out the trash because they think I'm dirty. It just spiraled from there, I guess. But anytime that we went out to eat together, I always just thought that they felt annoyed at me. Anytime that we'd talk in the group chat, I would try and have a funny comment or say something, and then I feel like their responses were very curt. And again, this is all me and not them. But then over the summer, I specifically remember I would have dreams over the summer between sophomore and junior year about that friend group hating me. It just built up and built up and built up, and I remember sending text messages to that group of just like, I feel like you guys don't like me. If you want to not be friends with me, like tell me. Like I said that to them. I was so consumed with this idea that like they didn't like me, and every time they were like, no, it's all fine, it's fine, and then they would reassure me, but I always never could get that out of my head that I'd somehow done something that I didn't deserve them. So this is all to say that moving into junior year, I was living alone. I didn't reach out to any of my old roommates. They didn't reach out to me about living together, so I was just like, whatever, I'll either live with random roommates in the apartments or live in a singular dorm on the honors floor and get a stipend and just have my own space, which is what I decided. I would rather live alone than live with roommates. And that was the first mistake and probably the worst thing I could have done for myself. At the time I was super excited. I remember I moved in the day before I had a huge meeting for work. It was like a 6-hour meeting for the writing center. My mom had come and dropped me off and started unpacking me. She left before we'd finished unpacking and I was like, oh whatever, it's fine, I'll finish packing myself. And then I remember I was gonna continue unpacking and I started live streaming, and in that live stream I just break into tears. And at the time I just told myself, oh, it's because I miss my mom, like I'm scared, like what friends I'm gonna have this semester. And it wasn't from any place of anxiety, it was just strictly I'm upset because I don't know how I'm gonna last this year from like a loneliness standpoint. And I still have clips of that. I don't know if I should insert any of them right now or save it for that anxiety video, but I was upset and didn't recognize that it could lead to something worse. So I stayed up until like 4 a.m. unpacking my room. I don't know what happened, but the next morning I woke up and it was like 7 a.m. I was gonna throw up. I was shivering. My gut was so tightly coiled that like I felt like almost physically ill. But I knew it was from anxiety because my chest was so tight and I had butterflies in my stomach and I was tingling everywhere and I knew the feeling. But this relapse, I acquired new symptoms that made it so that I was miserable. I've never before been so anxious that I wanted to throw up, but this relapse, I was constantly nauseous. I would dry heave so bad. Oh, it was the worst. Like I could cry talking about it. It's just, I would not wish that on anyone. And it was worse than anything I'd experienced in my entire life. And I woke up and I just texted my mom, what do I do? And at this point, she doesn't even know. At this point, I haven't been to the counseling center because I never needed it. So I think I went to the counseling center the previous semester when I started to feel like my friend group didn't like, I don't know. Definitely that morning at like 8 a.m. I had this meeting at 9 and I knew for sure I could not go to that meeting because the thing that makes my anxiety worse is sitting in one place and not being able to have an escape from that. So I knew, I was like, I'm gonna have to stay home and figure something out. And I literally called my school's health system and I was like, what can I do to get on medication? Because if this is day 1 and classes aren't even for a week, something has to change because I cannot survive like this. This is mental anguish that I was in. That year of my life is something that's so huge to me because I don't know how I did it. I got a 4.0 that semester. I continued creating YouTube videos. I kept friendships. I made new friendships. I flourished in the job I had and I made new friends with professors. And I've talked about this with my counselors, but I don't give myself enough recognition when I do good. I think this is what I need. It's just like, you did it, kid. You did good. Like now I'm just thinking about like overall, like I can't believe I'm here. The things you wish you could go back and tell your 18-year-old self. It's just like, you think this is gonna be the worst thing and it's not. Even like my junior year self, I remember Googling online school or something. I was texting my mom, I cannot finish this year if I feel the way I do. I remember my first day of my Shakespeare class, I skipped and I went home because my chest hurt so bad. And I just laid in bed and cried, and I was like, this is the one class that I knew people in, that I knew I would be comfortable in, but I physically could not go just because I was in such pain. To go from that to I'm on my last day and I feel fine and I'm proud of myself, and it's okay to feel proud for yourself, and it's okay to like take pride in doing something. I keep thinking to myself, I'm posting a lot about graduation, but it's like, I deserve that. Junior year was hell. Somehow I clawed my way out of it. I talk more about anxiety in college in my anxiety college video. That semester I had advanced grammar, which is one of my favorite classes I've ever taken. It was so much fun, and there was such a tight-knit group of girls there. I became best friends with my friend Christy, who was just unerringly there for me throughout everything. Major shout outs to Miriam and Lauren, everyone who was ever there for me when I was online at 4 a.m. being like, I can't breathe, like what do I do? That's the year that Restore Me came out and Warner had a panic attack in the book, and that's just like, I can't. And that book means so much to me because of that, because I just gotten through that whole thing, and then my favorite literature character has panic attacks too. It's just like, it was the perfect thing for me at that time. I wish this feeling on everyone, not like crying, but knowing that being in the middle of some horrid feelings and your brain telling you like you have to stop doing this and you have to go lay in bed all day and you can't do this. There's ways out of that. Those ways all lead to greater success. Like me sitting in my apartment for the last time, for the last night, like looking at all my bare walls, knowing in 12 hours I'm gonna be on a graduation stage. And of course there's things I regret, like I never dated in college. That's for a lot of reasons that I don't really want to get into. I regret not being more involved and hanging out with my friends more. I regret not taking more pictures. I regret getting a B in technical writing. I'm graduating with top honors. That professor who told me I write like I'm a high schooler can suck it. I don't really know how to wrap this up. I just kind of wanted to meander about what my experience has been like, because it has been an experience. I wish I could say something more profound, because I know in the future I'm gonna come back and watch this video and want to know like, what was I thinking right then when I was in my apartment for the last time? But it's really just like, I've said in a vlog clip before, it doesn't feel like I'm leaving. And I mean, it's sunk in that like seeing the boxes everywhere, like, yep, I'm going, but I don't know. I think I tend to miss things after the fact rather than when I'm actually leaving. Okay, well, this has been an emo time. If you glean anything from this video, glean the fact that if you're in a rough spot right now, it's not always gonna be rough. Even if it's been rough for 1 week or 3 years, the sun will come up and the seasons will change. I have a lot of journaling to do before tomorrow. I definitely want to chronicle this time of my life. I also have to edit this video. So thank you everyone for joining me. I know this wasn't an interesting vlog because there's only 2 clips, but hopefully tomorrow I can hand my camera off to my parents and they'll get me some good footage. Probably not. Tomorrow is gonna be another fast-paced day of get up, get ready, put stuff on, leave, go to the place, trying to figure out where I'm going. I'm gonna try and smuggle my phone in and my bra, so I might get clips from graduation, I might not. After graduation, we're going out to lunch. After lunch, we're going to pack up the apartment, check out, then get the heck out of here. If anything, I'll have a clip of my dog tomorrow. We'll be home around like 4 or 5, and that we'll definitely have time for that. Good night, everyone. See you graduation day tomorrow.